One of the primary things that you need to do in sales is move revenue forward in time. You want to move it closer to you so that you can start generating the result for the client, and so you can start generating the revenue for your company, and so you can start benefiting from whatever your commission or bonus schedule looks like. Now, let me explain this because I'm going to talk about activity and I'm going to talk about effectiveness. And whenever you talk about activity, two groups of people get nervous. One, salespeople with low activity have a problem when you talk about activity. And two, sales managers who don't like to talk about activity because it causes people to be a little bit combative and a little bit defensive. They don't like to talk about activity either. But I'm working from notes here, and I want to start by explaining something to you that's a very important concept to understand as a salesperson or as a sales manager or as a sales leader. If you have a person who has very low effectiveness, then asking them to make more calls will generally cause them to fail faster. And so what you need to do then is to work on their effectiveness. They need to actually get better over time, and that means more training, more coaching, more development, because they're not going to get any better just by making calls and failing, and in fact, they're going to get frustrated. Now, I know what you're saying. You're saying, yes, but the way you get better is to make your calls, and you're 100% right. But not just make your calls. You need to make your calls and you need feedback that comes from coaching and developing so that you can get better over time. You need to be able to put what you're doing in context, make adjustments, improve from day to day, from week to week, from month to month, and from quarter to quarter. So just dealing with activity is never the right answer for a salesperson, for a sales manager, or for a sales leader. It's just pushing the more button and hoping that more will solve your problem. Now, here is where more does tend to be useful. If your salesperson or your sales force is effective, if they're really good at what they're doing, then doing more of it produces a greater result. And in many, many cases, salespeople sell themselves short by not doing the work that they're capable of or as much work as they're capable of. They don't help as many clients as they could, and they don't bring the revenue in as fast as they might. So I want to share an idea with you, and I want you to think about this before you send me notes or give me comments here disagreeing with me. Calls that you make now, that result in appointments that you have now, that result in opportunities now, start to pull things forward in your direction. They start to benefit you because you're moving them closer. Calls that you decide to make later, and if you say something like, I'm going to call this target group and then I'll call them again in a quarter or 2 quarters, the fact that you pushed those calls into the future means that you also took that revenue opportunity and you pushed it into the future as well. You're pushing it further away from you. So you want to do everything you can to pull things towards you because that's what gives you velocity and allows you to grow. Sales cycles are sales cycles. So if it's normally 120 days for you to win, moving the date that starts closer to you is better than moving it further away from you. And I think that should make sense. And here is the rub in all of this. If it takes you 1,000 phone calls and 100 appointments to generate 10 opportunities that result in $1 million, then 2,000 calls results in $2 million. And here's the decision that you have to make as a salesperson or a sales manager or a sales leader. Over what period of time are you willing to make those calls? And someone who's willing to move those calls forward and say, while you're making 20 dials a day, I'm making 80 dials a day. And while you're booking 4 appointments a week, I'm booking 12 appointments a week. That person who's willing to do what you're not willing to do is going to have an advantage because they're going to be finding opportunities, creating new opportunities, and winning new opportunities that they're pulling close and blocking you from being able to do that because you're being passive and waiting. And I don't know what your numbers look like. I don't have any idea what your metrics are. But I do know this. A big part of success is deciding to do the work to pull that success towards you, whether it's revenue, whether it's helping more customers, or whether it's growing your business. I'm Anthony Iannarino. Hit the like button, or if you didn't like this, hit the dislike button. I can imagine there's a bunch of people who want to bounce their hand on the dislike button because I talked about activity, but it's important. And do hit the share button, give this to someone else who can use it, and hit subscribe. This is Everyday.